speaking to us on Skype is Anita Friedman, chairperson of World WITSO, one of the organizations, or maybe the organization outside the government that is certainly most involved with this issue. And so, Anita, talk to us a little about what you're seeing on the ground there, or hearing from the people in World WITSO and WITSO Israel that are really dealing with this issue on its front lines.
Thank you, Calev. Thank you for inviting me and for letting us say our voice, to hear our voices. I have to relate before we speak about this, to talk about the woman that was murdered today, Maisir Othman, a 27-year-old woman from Haifa that was murdered in front of her 2 children. This is the people we're talking about, and this is the people that the report are talking about. Indeed, we saw an increase of 800% of people trying to connect or try to get help. This report shows a lot of failures that have been going on for the past many years. There has been no government in the state of Israel that has treated this issue with a seriousness that it has to be treated. We consider this to be a pandemic, not less than the pandemic of the corona pandemic. It's terrorism that exists inside of our communities, our houses, and we need to look at it really seriously and take the steps appropriate to make sure that we can deal with it in the right way.
Right, and that controller's report also put some numbers on that failure to deal with it that you referred to. I'll give you 2 pretty prominent examples. According to the controller's report, only 20% of social workers are complying with ongoing training requirements set by the state to deal with this issue, and the ministry has no mechanism to follow up on it. It also reported that only 4,000 out of around 20,000 violent men are receiving professional consultations or care to confront their violent tendencies. So this is another issue, which is we talk about finding shelter and aid for the abused women in these situations, but the men have to be treated here. And it looks like this is one area where governments just have not been following up on.
Absolutely. There's been a huge failure in that area, and organizations like WITSO have been filling the vacuum. We've been talking to the different authorities about creating a central national authority that takes care of this issue. As it is the situation nowadays, this issue belongs to many different offices or ministries inside the government. We are calling for one centralized organization that can do that. As you said, the failures are plenty. For me, one of the biggest ones is the prevention. We look at this in a holistic way. We look at this as a societal problem, not a problem of women or of a certain segment in society. It's a holistic problem. And the prevention is something key. Because if we only treat, or we only get into the picture at the end of it, when we incarcerate the man, very few things are solved like that. We see that the Ministry of Welfare in Israel has identified 200,000 women as being victims of abuse. That means 600,000 children. That means almost 1 million people in the state of Israel are under these threats. And the failures have been so big that it's difficult. As you said, one of the biggest issues is the training of the professionals on how to deal with this. No, the judges have not been trained. The policemen have not been trained. Social workers have not been trained. They don't know how to deal with this issue. So yeah, we're calling from here for the government that it's just now created to make sure that they take this issue seriously and to find a proper solution to this. We can't continue like this.
Right.
Prevention is the key.
Right. And speaking of prevention, again, the report has some concrete examples of that. For example, in 3 towns, Lod, Sachlin, and Dimona, where there are unfortunate higher than average rates, the waiting period between the filing of the complaint and receiving assistance frequently between 1 to 3 months, which of course is plenty of time for even a fatal situation to develop. You mentioned the new government. I believe it's part of the coalition agreement. There was part of the coalition agreement was written that they would deal seriously with these issues on a number of fronts. How confident or not are you that that's going to be fulfilled?
We're pushing for it, and I have to be optimistic. I have no other way of dealing with this issue. We, as I said, with organizations like WITSO, and we're in the forefront of this, we developed a lot of different programs for prevention, and we are the ones talking to the government to make sure that they have the tools. Look, budgets have been created and have been allocated for this, but they have not been distributed. That's one of the huge issues we have. We don't have enough centers, especially in the cities where you mentioned, to take care of the victims. We don't have a rapid response. We don't have a coordinated response. A lot of the times, men are being let out of jail. One hand doesn't know what the other hand does. The victims are not being notified, and you have situations like we had today of a woman being murdered in front of her children. You know, the control report is very thorough. It's 150 pages. It brings up to the forefront what we've been saying for a long, long time, that the key is the prevention, and not only that we have to train the people that deal with this, because if an abusive man goes in front of a judge and they dismiss him, or they do not think that the case is serious enough, they let him go, and so on and so forth.
There's a lot to be done. Clearly a situation that went from bad to worse during the coronavirus pandemic. Anita Friedman of World WITSO, thanks for joining us on The Rundown.
Thank you, Calev.